There is a secret room inside the Great Pyramid of Giza that nobody has ever opened. Not archaeologists, not engineers, not even the guy with the drone and the questionable life choices who tried to sneak in during the pandemic. We'll get to that room. It's the best part of this video. Stick around. But first, we need to talk about aliens because apparently 4,500 years ago, a bunch of extraterrestrials flew millions of light years across the galaxy, took one look at Earth, and decided their top priority was helping some guys in Egypt stack rocks. Not cure diseases, not share faster than light travel. Just rocks. Really big rocks. In a triangle. This is the ancient aliens theory, and somehow it refuses to die. Here's the entire argument. The pyramids are huge. The blocks are heavy. Ancient Egyptians didn't have bulldozers. Therefore, aliens. That's it. That's the whole theory. It's the logical equivalent of finding a really good sandwich and assuming a wizard made it. The Great Pyramid is made of over 2 million blocks. Some weigh 60 tons. And people look at that and go, there's no way humans did this. Which is a wild thing to say about the same species that later invented the guillotine for efficiency and thought leeches were good medicine. Humans will absolutely figure out how to move a giant rock if the alternative is getting yelled at by a pharaoh. So how did they actually do it? Let's start with the workers. For decades, pop culture insisted the pyramids were built by slaves, whips cracking, misery all around. Very dramatic. Also, mostly wrong. Archaeologists found an entire workers' village near the pyramids. Bakeries, breweries, medical care for broken bones. A cemetery where workers were buried with respect, close to the pyramids themselves, which is not typically how you treat labor you don't care about. Best guess, these were paid laborers and skilled craftsmen. Basically a government construction contract, except payment was bread and beer, which honestly sounds better than most modern jobs. Now here's where it gets genuinely weird, and I promise this connects back to that secret room. Nobody actually agrees on how they built the ramps. Like, actual academic arguments happen over this. One theory says a giant straight ramp up one side. Except the math doesn't work. Short enough to be practical, and it's too steep. Gentle enough to use, and it needs to be over a mile long. Another theory says a spiral ramp wrapping around the outside as it rose. More efficient, except it should make the corners messy, and yet the corners are almost perfectly square. Awkward. And then, in 2017, scientists scanned the Great Pyramid using cosmic ray imaging, technology usually reserved for finding hidden chambers in nuclear reactors, and found something nobody was expecting. A massive hidden void, roughly the size of a jumbo jet, sealed inside solid stone, above the Grand Gallery, with no known entrance. That's the room from the beginning of this video. It's real. It's been sitting there for 4,500 years, and to this day, nobody knows exactly what it was built for or how you'd even get inside. So the honest answer to how did they build this thing is, we're still figuring it out, which is way more interesting than aliens because it means real, solvable mystery still exists instead of a guy with a laser beam did it off screen. Now, one part we did crack, moving the actual stones. In 2014, physicists studying old Egyptian art noticed a detail everyone had ignored. A wall painting shows workers dragging a giant statue on a sled, and there's a guy in front pouring water onto the sand. Turns out, wet sand is way easier to drag things across than dry sand. It stiffens the surface and cuts friction almost in half. The Egyptians figured this out with 0 physics degrees. Just vibes and trial and error. Next time someone calls ancient people primitive, remember they discovered fluid dynamics using a bucket. Then there's the precision. The base of the Great Pyramid is level to within about 2 centimeters across a footprint the size of 10 football fields. The sides line up with true north to an accuracy modern engineers respect. Done with ropes, water levels, and star sightings. No lasers, no GPS, just math and a supervisor who clearly did not accept close enough. And here's the actual insulting part of the alien theory. It's not just wrong, it's kind of condescending, if we're being honest. It quietly assumes a civilization that invented early medicine, mathematics, And a functioning bureaucracy somehow couldn't organize a construction project without help from space. We even know the name of the lead architect of the first pyramid, Imhotep. A real guy, later worshipped as a literal god of wisdom, which, fair, the man built a stone mountain with copper chisels. So here's what actually happened. Tens of thousands of paid Egyptian workers, incredible organization, clever low-tech tricks like wet sand and water levels, decades of planning, one government that was scarily good at logistics, and somewhere above the Grand Gallery, a sealed room that's been quietly keeping its secret since before the wheel was even common in Europe. No spaceships, no lasers, just humans, being stubborn and clever, the same way they've always been. And one mystery they left behind on purpose, apparently, for us to lose our minds over 4,500 years later.